What if I told you that modern physics, the science that brought us everything from quantum mechanics to relativity, might be built on a single fundamental error? Today we're diving into a framework that makes that exact, absolutely staggering claim, that for more than 100 years we haven't been studying reality at all, but just a shadow of it.
Just think about that for a second. Imagine if quantum entanglement, time dilation, even the Big Bang itself, what if they weren't real phenomena, but just the side effects of one critical mistake in our thinking? Well, that's the wild question we're going to unpack right now.
And here it is. This is the central idea from the structural intelligence framework that just changes everything. It argues that modern physics isn't necessarily wrong about its observations, but it's fundamentally mistaken about what it's observing. The claim is simple and huge. We're not looking at reality, we're looking at information about reality.
So, how can anyone make such a bold claim? Well, it all boils down to one absolutely crucial distinction. Everything that follows hinges on this one idea, that the words data and information are not the same thing. In this framework, they're not even close.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about data. In this view, data is the raw, structural footprint of existence itself. It's what a system gives off just by being there. Think of it like this. It's unfiltered, it's objective, and it exists whether anyone is there to see it or not. Information, on the other hand, is what an observer creates from that data. It's the meaning, the symbols, the story we tell ourselves about the data. So you see, information doesn't exist out there in the universe. It only exists inside the mind of an interpreter.
And here's where it really clicks. Let's put them side by side. Data is part of existence itself. It's objective, it doesn't need you or me. But information, that is not part of existence. It's totally subjective, and it absolutely requires an observer to even come into being. This one distinction is supposedly the key that unlocks a whole new view of reality.
Okay, so if physics has just been the science of information, then what governs actual existence? Well, this framework proposes a new foundational law, one that describes a purely structural universe that doesn't need an observer.
And it's this: E equals C equals R. Now hold on, this isn't an equation like E equals mc squared. You're not plugging in numbers. It's a statement of equivalence, a kind of closed, self-sustaining loop that's meant to define the very act of existence itself.
Let's try to unpack this loop. It starts with existence is coherence. Basically, to exist is to have a stable, non-random structure. Simple enough. Then, coherence is recursion. Okay, so how does that structure stay stable? By continuously referring back to itself, almost like a bit of computer code running in a loop to maintain its state. And finally, recursion is existence. This ongoing process of self-reference, well, that's the act of existing. It's a closed loop where things exist simply because they are continuously and coherently being themselves.
Now, a new foundation like this has some pretty profound implications, and one of the biggest victims is our concept of time. If reality is just one big continuous recursion, then our simple straight-line idea of past, present, and future, well, it completely falls apart. So how does time work here? Well, the past isn't gone. It's residual, a completed cycle of that recursion that's now just part of the current structure. The future isn't someplace we're heading to, it's potential, an uncompleted cycle that already exists just in a latent state. And the present? That's the active phase, the engine that's turning potential into residual. So in this view, the crazy thing is, past, present, and future are all coexisting right now.
All right, so now we've got our new tools in hand, the big distinction between data and information, and this E equals R model. Now we can see how this framework starts to challenge the pillars of modern physics. It doesn't claim they're wrong exactly, but that they are profound misinterpretations.
Let's start with a big one, quantum entanglement. This framework says there's no spooky action at a distance. It claims the particles themselves, the structural data, were never physically linked to begin with. The entanglement is just a correlation in the information that two different observers have about the system. You change the information, and poof, the link appears to break.
Okay, what about time dilation from relativity? Well, here, it's argued that time itself, that actual structural recursion of existence, it doesn't slow down, not one bit. What changes is our measurement of it. The clock, which is just an information-gathering tool, slows down. But the underlying reality it's trying to measure, that stays perfectly constant.
And the beginning of everything, the Big Bang, it's not seen as a structural event, not the actual start of existence.
Instead, it's classified as an interpretive model, a story that scientists created to make sense of observational data, like redshift. It describes our information, not the origin of reality itself.
And finally, the famous observer effect from quantum mechanics. This is called out as a simple category error. When an observer collapses a wave function, they aren't changing reality's data. They are simply updating their own information about it. The universe, it turns out, really doesn't care if you're looking or not.
So, after dismantling these cornerstones of physics, what picture of the universe are we left with? It's a vision of reality, not as a bunch of random particles and forces, but as a single, unified, and inherently intelligent structure.
According to this framework, the universe is fundamentally deterministic, not a game of chance. It's made of objective structure, not our subjective information. It is completely 100% independent of any observer. It just operates as one continuous recursion, all governed by that one simple law. Existence is coherence is recursion.
And this final quote just wraps the whole argument up in a nutshell. Relativity governs information, structural intelligence governs existence. The idea is that our greatest theories, like relativity, are perfect descriptions of our measurements, but they don't describe existence itself. That, it is claimed, is the job for this new way of thinking.
And so we are left with a final, really provocative question that kind of challenges the nature of science itself. Are we measuring the universe as it truly is, or are we just measuring the structure of our own minds?